and welcome to another live. I think it has been 9 days since I did another live. Um, my week's activities. I've been traveling a lot recently, so I haven't had the time to actually sit down and talk to you guys, or rather post another live. And I think this will be in the same stead as the previous ones. I'll be doing a 30-minute talk of things that have crossed my mind, or things that I saw that are worthwhile. I'd really want to start first by appreciating the number of people that have subscribed. I think I am using that as social proof, and like the normal vanity metric of popularity, I think this shows that there are people who are actually supporting my madness in a sense. I think there are people who are also looking for community that actually, uh, especially men, because that is my target patronage. I want to have men who actually can step up, because I've seen the deficiency of men who actually want to go back to the traditional men, the men who had who could think, or who could philosophize, who could increase the abundance of what is masculine. I'd like to appreciate the people who also left comments. Unfortunately, this video I will be doing with I've disallowed comments, because I've realized that there are trolls. There are people who actually have negative intentions, and I think if I would like to continue, I would like to also prevent that. I think everybody has a way to therapize themselves, not actually troll people online. I think anybody who does that is a spineless person. I think if you have a divergent opinion, you should be able to just put it out there and not try to knock someone down a peg. I think it's vanity. I think it's lack of intelligence, and I think it's utterly wrong. But anyways, I think this will be the tempo up until I see the need to actually allow chats. But for now, if you want to leave a comment, you can do that in the comment section. And I'd like to get to the details of why I'm posting this live. And as a routine, as tradition, I'd want to tell you my current read. My current read is still the same as the previous week. I haven't had the time to sit down and actually read to completion. So I am still reading what was previously borrowed. So I still am reading The Empress and the Cake. And I'm finding it difficult reading this book, particularly because I find it a bit too shallow, or there's too much fluff. The author doesn't really get to the story, or the meat of the story. She takes too much time to actually get to the interesting parts. That's why maybe I'm taking a while. My other read is this as well. A Guide to Broadcasting Techniques, Radio. Particularly the reason why I'm very attracted. No, sorry, I'm very concentrated on this is because of this podcast, or sorry, because of this medium. I think I really want to understand broadcasting techniques. I would really want to improve moving forward, because I think this will be a lifetime uh, creative outlet. I think I'd want to continue, because I think it's actually helping me with my writer's block and my reader's block as well, because I started out as a medium for actually creatively expressing myself. And I think it's going well, and I think I'd really want to also put in some effort by actually investing in better ways to broadcast. I think that sums it up. So these are my current reads. Still, I've yet to finish them, but I also have other reads that I have a reading list. I think I might address it in the next video. There are things that I have put in the reading list, because I find that there is a lot of influx of books. So I think unfortunately you can end up reading books that do not have really that much value. So for me, I have actually put down a list according to what I think are profound and what I think I'd want to cover. So these are my current reads. And over here is what I wanted to talk about. I was actually going through a few of my notes, and then I realized that at the beginning of this year, I decided to sit down like a normal human being and actually write down my 2025 my 2025 resolutions. And I think the reason why I have gone back to this 2025 resolve is because of how I personally think these few pointers have actually made me have a very fruitful year. I think 2025, I have been able to achieve quite a lot as compared to the previous years. 2025, I've been able to build my first house. 2025, I've been able to continue with my studies because uh, I started doing an electronics engineering course, and it's good because it's different from my previous career. I I did in the uni. I did my forestry degree, so I think it's quite a new and uncharted territories for me. I think it's really good, and I think most of that and other things that I've been able to do in 2025 have been because of this resolutions. And I think I'll go through five of them because I still want to keep this short. I think it will be best if I kept it short, so I'll go through five of it. And the funny thing is that most of this resolve, that's why you've seen I've split them into women and men. I think most of this resolve are not the traditional sense of resolutions. What I mean by that is that they are not the typical. I want to achieve this. I want to achieve that. I think most of them have been below the surface. I've really tried to iron out my character because I think I saw something online and I realized that we are living in a generation whereby the character or personality has been neglected. I think a lot of people are living in the material sense, and I think it's very frustrating because whenever you meet people and have conversations with them or have a relationship with them, you find that they are operating at a very superficial level, and it's very vexing because I think as humans we have the capacity to go into a deeper level, and we have the blessing to actually become better human beings. I think people have started neglecting that because of the glamorous pursuit of wealth or money, or there's too much noise. So I think for me, my approach to resolutions was at a deeper level because I think I'm craving also a society whereby people have value and their value lies in their character. I think that's why. And so I'll start by the first, hopefully go through the five first, and maybe in the next video, depending on on the response, I will actually be able to complete it. And I think I'll just mention them and go into a deeper explanation as to why I decided my 2025 will be guided by this few tenets. So the first one is invest in yourself. I think I'll go through the men. The women section is not is tentative because I think women are not my primary concern. I think women take care of themselves, unfortunately, or rather fortunately, depending on how you see it. So the first one is invest in yourself. I think men, unfortunately, men. I think the first one is invest in yourself. Sorry, I think men seldom invest in themselves. I think it's a very cliche statement because oftentimes when you go online, you find that a lot of times you will see um, influencers or thought leaders talking about men invest in yourself. I think it's a very blanket statement. That's why it's vague and it's very ambiguous, and that's why it's difficult to actually understand what that sentence or that suggestion actually does mean. But I think for men to invest in yourself, I mean in the sense that you have the three components that make up a man. You have the mind. I think man is his own mind. A man who doesn't have a sound mind, a man who doesn't feed his mind, I find that those are men who are lacking. I think philosophy was an invention of man, the love of wisdom, because philosophia is the root name from Latin that brings about philosophy. So I think man is his mind. Investing in yourself as a man should start from your mind. I think every time you come across a man who doesn't have anything substantial to say, or is not carrying anything substantial in his thought, is a very frail man. I think in our society right now, because of how structured it is, we have focused so much in the product and not the process. So we have assumed that anybody who has a product, and by that I mean anybody who has a material signal, maybe money, maybe a flashy car, maybe flashy clothes or fashion, or whatever it is, minus the substance that brings about that product, is accomplished. I think that is a very misguided thing. I think the great men in history have always had some substance to it. I think people like Vinci, people like uh, Isaac Newton, I think Tom Boyer in our country, uh, Sankara. I've had Sankara being mentioned. You find that most of them, if you go and do a research a bit on their biography, you find that these are men who actually took the time to invest in their mind. So if so, this is why I decided in 2025 to join the membership of my local library, and it has been very profitable because I think with that it gave me the impetus and the courage to actually change, or rather supplement my career. That's why I signed into electrical this year, and I think it has been very very eye-opening because I've actually realized that you can actually stretch your mind to a point whereby it actually grows. I think we have to put, as men, I think we have to put ourselves in difficult mental situations so that you can develop the discernment, the judgment to be able to participate in a society that is fully masculine. I think we can be able to strengthen masculinity by feeding our minds. I think that will be able to give us substance or substrate to actually level up conversations, to actually contribute in public affairs or in social intercourse. So I think that's the first thing. I think men, what I would like to encourage men is to actually invest in their mind. There is nothing shameful with a man who reads. I don't know where that narrative began, but there is a discriminatory stance where people think that a man who reads is a weak man or is a loser. I've actually had that altercation previously, where somebody says that you actually read too much, so by default you're a loser. I think it's wrong. I think somebody who reads enough, who writes enough, has a weaponized mind in the sense that he actually improves his life. I think there is no other way you can actually improve your life. You should start by sharpening your mind. You really look forward to having a society of men who can actually have a healthy discourse, who can actually have things that are more practical. I think the infiltration of sexually obsessed men who are completely stripped off every other aspect rather than just their sexuality is very tiresome. I think you can't exist in a monoculture whereby everything is sex. I think it's boring, to be honest. So invest in yourself. That was my resolve on 2025, and I think I started with the mind. The next is the body. I think a man's body is his temple first before it becomes God's temple. And I think most men do not really take care of themselves in that sense. And the only time that you can see a man who's groomed or a man who's physically fit is a man who's trying to attract a woman. I think a man independently has no motivation to actually take care of themselves physically, if not for the reward of a mate. And I think it's fine, but it's a wrong means to an end, which you should get to that end irrespective of what the motivation is. I think men should actually go back to the days whereby you were physically fit. I think the men who went to war were the ultimate men uh, in their ultimate form of masculinity. I think a man who exercises physically, who takes care of their body in terms of hygiene, who grooms well, just for the sake of your own, for their own self. I think it's a good move. I think when you supplement that with the person who reads, you find a more refined, a more civilized man. I think men do not do that on their own accord, because I've had friends, male friends. Initially, whenever you see somebody looking good, they always look good because they are going to impress a woman, which is fine. But I think you can still look good even without that initiative. I think investing in yourself physically is also a good thing. You should also be able to eat good. I think I'm yet to meet men who can actually take themselves out, go out in a hotel, sit down, order good food, just eat it alone on the table and leave. I think women do that. If you're ever in town and you walk into a hotel, you'll find that there are tables sporadically spread where you find that there are women who are actually they've taken themselves out on a date. Finding men individually doing that just for the sake of the experience is rare. I think men should start doing that. Recently, I was in a town. I had traveled to a town, and while I was doing my errands, I was in town. Then the thought hit me, because I remember most of the time that I used to go to these fancy restaurants, I will do that because I've asked someone out. I can't do that because of my own individual desire. And I think I popped into one of the hotels and then I sat down and then I realized that there is a lot of women who do that regularly. I think men should start doing that. I think there's a whole serenity when you of there's a whole serenity when you start taking care of yourself. So I think investing in yourself physically is also important. Investing in yourself spiritually is a whole topic, because I really don't think this video will allow. But I think it's a very difficult conversation just to throw out there, because the spirit is very confusing. I think with the influence of Friedrich Nietzsche, Carl Jung, with the influence of Viktor Frankl, with the influence of a few, I think Bhagavad Gita. That is the last one that I read, with the influence of the book of the Way, Tao Te Ching. Uh, there's a lot of things that I think I'll separate them for another video. I think the health of a masculine man's spirit is quite a broader topic, but I think I'll just put it out there because this is not the topic. So invest in yourself as a man first, mentally, read. Second, physically, do some form of exercise. And if that exercise is actually where you get your daily bread, I think that is another plus, because I think we are actually having a deficiency of men who are actually doing menial work. If it's farming, if it's carpentry, if it's masonry, if it is those traditional forms of work, I think there is a lack in that. And those work forms of work were actually delegated to men because men are the builders of society. So invest in yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually. So I did that this year, and I think it has been quite fruitful because I'm here talking to you. That's one. I think it actually dealt away with a lot of imposter syndrome, because I was so much cooped up in a frail sense of masculinity during the previous years. But I think when I started investing in myself 2025, I think I've been able to gain some form of momentum in how I relate, in how I think, in how I speak, in who I relate to, what I think, all those things. I think it is one of the things that has actually pushed me to achieve quite a few things in 2025. I think after that, the second resolve that I made in 2025 was to find income. And I think this is quite interesting because oftentimes uh, it's seldom talked about, because I think we live in a very depraved society at this point in terms of employment. I think the youths have been up in arms previously. There's been a political unrest, but I promised you I will not be talking about politics in this channel. But I think finding income is a very contentious conversation, because that is what leads. That is one of the most leading problems in our country. Levels of unemployment. It's very, but I think a man who doesn't have income has no purpose, and by that you're setting yourself up to a depressive state. And the reason why I chose that, because 2024 I did not have any form of employment. I think, sorry, I didn't have any form of income. When I talk about income, is actually applying yourself. I think men, we have neglected ourselves into this protesting state, whereby we are actually pointing at a lot of external factors, complaining that those are the reasons why you can't find income. I think a man should have some form of entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial spirit. I think a man should have some form of innovation. I think fast, think fast. I think we are living at an age whereby there's a lot of egotism. We do not want to actually apply ourselves. I think men, we also have a lot of avenues where you can actually do something, because I've seen a lot of people swallow their pride and actually apply themselves, and they found income. I think as a man, so that you can be able to stand up to a lot of nonsense, you have to have your bread. I think oftentimes you find that I think it's in the 48 laws of power. There's a very important law that actually stuck with me, and it actually liberated me to the point where I realized that it actually is true. Despise free lunch. I think that's it. I think as a man, if you can actually be bought, it shows that you have no spine. I think a man who finds a source of income, who invents a source of income, is a man who is actually tapping into his own masculinity. I think you can actually see the moment you have income, how the dynamics and the paradigm shifts with your relationship with the feminine. I think men should find income regardless of the status. I think we should actually stop playing the status games. I think we should revert back to playing wealth creation games. So as a man, if you are uh, at the bottom, if you are at the bottom level right now, I think the first thing are those 2 points. First, invest in yourself. Second is find a source of income. Do anything and everything. I think it's better to start now and start towards a particular direction, but rather than just wait. I think we have been sold this narrative by the advent of social media, that you can, it's called anomoka culture. I think that's what it's called in our country. I don't know how to translate it. But there is this lottery ticket thinking, whereby men have been incentivized to believe that you can actually kick a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow and just instantaneously become rich. I think it's misguiding. I think we still have to go back to the process and go back to trusting the process. I think it's important as a young man, or as a young male man, find a source of income. Everything is carried out progressively. Nothing happens overnight. I think men, we need to go back to the co-creator responsibility or positions that we have. Uh, I think that is it. Find income, which is earned income. I think it's very fulfilling whenever you go out and do something that actually earns you income. Shortcuts when it comes to income are dangerous, particularly to your mental state and to your spirit as well, because you will get into this habit of gambling. I think gambling is a poisonous and a toxic activity, as well as masturbation. Those are things that actually give you the rewards that are not essentially earned. I think so. The current lacking thing is the fact that we have men who are not earning their income. I think we have men who are preaching this gospel of corrupting the system, or beating the system, or deals. I think that's what it's called. It's the deal economy, whereby you'll do something that is against meritocracy. You'll steal, or you'll do something, next you have a V8, or next you have a mansion somewhere, and it's totally unearned. So you find that whenever you sit across a table with such people, they are very empty. And it's sad, because you're sitting in a seat that is not yours. and eventually it's unsustainable because the mind and the money are always a yin and the mind and the money are always complementary. The more mind you have, the more money actually that will follow you. I think you can do the deal economy thing, but it's very unsustainable. I think a mature masculine male in his full masculinity respects and trusts the process, so you have to find and income. So number three, I think it was just an observation, but it actually made me realize that we don't. So recently I was traveling as well, coming back, and I was seated adjacent to a man, of course, and this man was traveling back as well to see his family, I think. We didn't have quite a conversation, so I couldn't ask. But what struck me was he had a big bag of shopping, and of course, when he put it down, I could see, even though it was a form of intrusion, but I could see that what he had in the in his shopping bag were things that were of feminine nature, or they were shopping that were to be taken for a woman. I think there was a dress and something, and then it hit me that how many times I questioned it. How many times as a man do you buy good things for yourself? I think in the year 2025, I think I would put it out there for every man to actually buy something good for themselves. I think we as men, we think about gifting women more times than we gift ourselves. And I don't mean that this is a call for selfishness. I think there is the provision element of a man. You should continue being the provider. That is absolutely okay because that is who you are. But in that sense as well, you should be able to see maybe a good shirt, maybe a good watch, maybe a good belt, and be able to buy it for yourself. I think I am yet to see men who actually budgeted it into their income. I think my colleagues at work, most of the time when we have these conversations, they have planned everything to gifting society, save for themselves, and yet men are working the hardest. I think it's very oxymoronical in that sense. I think men should be able to buy something good for themselves. So I think in 2025, I have been able to buy a few things for myself. I think I've been able to build a house for myself. I think that is the first thing that I think is a good thing, because that's a good thing for me because it has actually made me realize that I can actually take care of myself, and I can actually create a safe space for myself. I think building a house for a man is a step towards guarding your boundaries. So I think the good thing that I've bought myself this year was my house, because I have actually interacted through the process of it. I've actually interacted with a lot of men in a lot of sectors doing good things. I think the building sector is mostly a masculine sector. That's a fact. So most of the cement, most of the iron sheets, most of the timber, most of the tiles, most of the windows, the welding sector. I think most are men who are actually doing good things. So I think as a 2025 resolve, I think men should at least put it in their list to buy themselves something that is good. Take the initiative, buy yourself a good watch, however expensive it is. Buy yourself good shoes, because I see men who actually take care of their families, but when you see their shoes, they are tattered, or their clothes, they are tattered. I think we abandon ourselves so much with the excuse that we are providing. I think it's okay to provide, but also do not neglect yourself only to a cause. Because my question would be, how come that women do it? Women actually do that. So I think for men, please, 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 2025, buy yourself something that is good. One, at least one thing. And I want to hear from the comment section how many men can actually get out of their house, open the door, walk outside, find something that is good and buy it for themselves, not so that you can gift someone else. So I think that is the third thing. Number 5. I think it's still around the blanket statement of investing in yourself. Number 4, sorry. Number 4 is read. Have a current read. Please have a current read. As a man, it's very embarrassing whenever you sit down with a man and a topic such as politics or economics or AI, I think there's a lot of conversation around AI, climate change. These are things that are in the mainstream. It is very heartbreaking to find that a man doesn't have knowledge on such things. These are things that are mainstream. So I think you, as a man, you should be able to have a current read. Have something that you're reading. Thank God we have the advent of smartphones. You can actually read. I appreciate that on the last live that I had, there's a man. I can't remember the name, but he was, I think, Zimbabwean or something. He asked me if I was for the idea of reading on screen or on digital platforms. I think that is a good thing. I think men should be able to have a current read. Read newspapers, read anything. Having a conversation with a man and yet not receiving some form of insight from the man is very frustrating. My question to you would be, what the hell are you doing? If you're not reading, what the hell are you doing? The thing that is to be fed on a regular basis, and it actually grows and it grows along with you, and you can actually pass it down to your children, is your mind. Then how are you feeding your mind if you're not reading? I think recently I had a friend when we were walking in town, and